About every 90s kid knows the Nickelodeon series Hey Arnold. The show is about a small boy with an odd shaped head. That's about the first thing you notice. The oddly shaped head outsides the character have, we'll get back to that later on. I want to tell you one thing first. This show isn't fiction. It's all at how it happened. That's how and why there are a lot of life lessons into it. Arnold is a boy who lives in a fictional city, and the fictional city is actually New York. The poor area of New York, it's clearly visible the step where Arnold lives in ghetto. He's just a poor orphan living with his grandparents, Gertie and Phil, as well as he believes that he's an orphan. He's actually the child of what people believes in to be his grandparents. The grandparents are mentally unstable and told Arnold that his real parents of normal age died in a plane crash. But that's not true at all. Because of Gertie and Phil were old, and when they were made in Hey Arnold, he was born with a few conditions. One of them is this hydrocephalus. And the reason why his head is such an odd shape, there's a type of hepatologist, which is one that Arnold suffers from, which is called the Arnold-Chiari syndrome. That's why the creators decide to call the boy Arnold. Gertie and Phil themselves are mentally unstable because of their age, and also their reason is because Phil harassed and attacked Arnold. Phil says to Arnold that he's just totally normal for that a grandparent does this kind of stuff to their grandchildren. Arnold is being bullied for his oddly shaped head, but there was another condition that Arnold comes in because of Gertie and Phil's old age. Arnold suffers from severe psychological conditions. This makes him see things that aren't there. Because he's bullied a lot, he escapes an imaginary world with his imaginary friends. That's the reason why the other characters have weird shaped heads too. It makes them feel like normal and no one could pick on him because of his head. This is also the reason why Arnold believes that his parents are the grandparents, that his real parents died in a plane crash. This condition makes him believe that it's reality. But its reality behind the series is way worse. It is reality. It is what this story tells you about a poor boy living in New York. It's based on the facts. When the creator got lost in New York City, he accidentally got into a poor area, which was very late, and he decides to stay at a hotel. When he came across a 9-year-old boy from the children of two people who were clearly too old to have children, he saw that the boy was mentally unstable, and believed that all the things were made up. The creator decided to talk to the boy, and he felt really sorry for the boy when he discovered that the boy only had imaginary friends and would die if he didn't get a medical care quickly. He then felt like he needed something to do, so he asked the boy if he could tell his story, and then he made sure that the boy's life would become better. But he didn't. It just used a sad story for the TV program. He just took advantage of it and all the misery and was so successful to a children's program. He became rich and didn't even care about the poor boy's suffering. He didn't even tell anyone about the way he came up with in the area and the idea for the series. He knew that if the truth would come out, it would all be done for him. No one would support a program created by someone who became rich over the misery of someone else. The secret was well kept for many years, but in 2004, it all came out to one important people from Nickelodeon. The show immediately got cancelled. So now you all know how the idea and where it came from. From what it is about it of how it ended. The boy is probably dead by now, so we can't help him anymore. But please make sure no one takes advantage of someone else's misery ever again. We can help all those poor people in ghettos, but not to be making into a program about them. And that, my little pretties, was Hey Arnold Fury. Hey Arnold Fury pasta. My final thoughts on this story? I gotta admit, this one is actually a pretty good creepypasta. I actually really find this one to be believable on, why Arnold is, living in such a fictional world and all that. And, I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm definitely have to say this is all basically based on the same, what's going on with Arnold and all that. I really do find this one to be a very believable story. Really well made, it's believable. I really do find this one to be a pretty good Fury. Now, how did I actually found this story? Well, I found it on a wiki. So there's that. I did see a bunch of narrations of people narrating this story, like I watched Creepy Elliot's narration, and it's pretty good. I also watched Dave the Useless's Fury on Hey Arnold Theory. I've watched that one, as well as Tartarus Pictures, and also Creepy Fettucine. But I also remember Cruz Pasta narrated this one like 8 years ago, and I have to say it's actually a pretty good story. I really do find this one to be enjoyable. So that's kind of why I decided to sit there and have a go at this story. In my opinion, I honestly feel bad for Arnold of all the stuff that he had to go through, with his grandparents being mentally, unstable, the way they mistreated him and all that. It's believable to an extent, and it's very messed up too. Like, I had to censor some things because it was just too messed up for me to mention or anything. But I would have to say, I really do feel bad for Arnold in this Fury Pasta for all the stuff he had to go through. Now, I have not watched this show in like a really long time, so yeah, there's definitely me saying that. I have not watched this show in like forever, but I really do like how this show went out. It had a really good concept. It had a really good, well-made Fury, and I definitely have to say the grammar is pretty good. Although I did notice maybe one or two punctuation errors and maybe one or two grammatical errors in there, but other than that, the story was perfect. It's a very good Fury. It's really well made. I do have to say, I know most Fury pastas are not really, great nowadays because they're mostly sounding the same, but for some reason, this story honestly is pretty good. I really do find this story to be enjoyable. It is on a wiki. I'm sure you could probably research it. I think it's Fumble Dumble's Creepypasta wiki or something. I don't really remember because I remember got taken down from like a couple of other. I think I once saw it on Spin Pasta, but I think it did get removed or something, which is very unfortunate because this is a really awesome story. Now, if you guys remember Hey Arnold, I could really say I feel bad for him for going through all this. But I know in a kid's cartoon show like Hey Arnold, they would never show this on TV because, well, they would most likely get sued for it. But not only that, it would not be child friendly if they were to do that due to the subject matter that was mentioned in the story. But I still have to say, this is actually a pretty well made story. Not a terrible story. It's a pretty awesome story. So, with that said, I'm not sure who the original author is, but so I'm just going to state as anonymous who wrote the story for now. If I ever find out who the original author is in the future, let's just say I ended up seeing the author in the comment section of this video, or, somebody were to tell me who wrote the story, I'll definitely be sure to sit there and give him or her proper credit as soon as I know for a full fact on who wrote the story. But yeah, at least for now, I will say to the author, great job with this story. You did a great job writing it. It's really well done. And the Furies are actually pretty believable, so I'm really giving the author that. The Furies and all that are pretty much true. I also do feel bad for Arnold for having to go through, all of that. So, yeah, I do feel bad for him. And, one thing I really would have to say that I hate about creators nowadays is that, some of them actually really don't seem to give a crap, about, anything else but being rich. Like, I mean, take a look at, Butch Hartman, I think that's who it is. I think that's the creator of Fairy Odd Parents, from what I remember entirely, but I can't really remember. But, yeah, I hate that some, creators of certain TV shows, go out of their way and be greedy and rich, and they don't really care about anyone but themselves. I really hate that, that creators of certain TV shows would sit there and do that. That's the one thing I really don't like about them nowadays. But even then, though, with the exception of Steven Hillenburg before he died, Steven Hillenburg actually was the creator of SpongeBob. He actually wasn't anything like that, so that was why I liked him a lot. But I guess with that being the case, that being said, what? Oh yeah, and I'm gonna sit here and just say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to own opinions regards to these creepypastas. This is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It's a good creepypasta. It was really enjoyable, really well made. Definitely really enjoyed how, it all went out. It's really believable, and I do feel bad for Arnold for, everything that's happened to him. And I don't like how, most creators of TV shows nowadays, are greedy and they always focus on being rich and always focusing on themselves and not everyone else. But anyways, what did you guys think about this Fury Pasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what would you have done person to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so then that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.